First up, a story about the impact of delays in getting immigrant dairy workers into the country just as calving is starting. Federated Farmers has pointed out at least 500 dairy roles remain unfilled due to what they call horrendous delays in visa processing, and it couldn't come at a worse time. These workers are coming mainly from the Philippines, but also India and Sri Lanka. And Fed's dairy spokesperson Richard McIntyre says it's taking 6 months to get applications approved. He says it's made worse due to new rules which came in April. He told our rural news team he's getting lots of calls from stressed out farmers.
We actually engage with immigration on a regular basis to try and fix this, but I think in all reality we've got a system that just plain isn't working right now, and it needs a real overhaul to obviously make sure there's no ability to exploit migrants or anything like that, but at the same time we need the right people turning up in the right workplaces at the right time.
Now, the Immigration Minister has told our rural news desk there have been changes made to shorten the recruitment process, ensuring employers can hire and train for the calving season, as well as a guide produced for employers to navigate the system smoothly. And this is all amid a wider review of the accredited employer work visa.
Now let's take a look at some of the reaction to the government's draft emissions reduction plan, which was published this week. A massive tree planting push is part of the plan to soak up emissions and help reach 2050 targets. The government wants a moratorium on converting the most productive farmland to forestry and limitations on poorer quality land. But the New Zealand Institute of Forestry doubts the government's numbers and projections, and it's also pushing for more clarity on forestry policies to create confidence for investors. Here's Institute President James Treadwell.
They took a survey of intentions last year. However, since that survey, there's been a lot of changes made, particularly proposed restrictions that the government have brought into place, and ETS changes as well that have come in place, and confusion. So there's a total lack of confidence in the market at the moment.
Federated Farmers says the saying, right tree in the right place, still needs to guide any emissions reduction plan.
A big spike in cases of leptospirosis in areas affected by Cyclone Gabrielle is concerning health officials, farmers and vets. Rural Women New Zealand and Massey University have launched a project to raise awareness and funds to better control the bacterial infection. Cases have been much higher on the East Coast this year, believed to have been driven by widespread contaminated groundwater. The disease is passed to humans from animals through cuts or grazes and causes flu-like symptoms. It can lead to kidney failure or meningitis, and 2 out of 3 who contract it are hospitalised. Here's Jackie Benchop, Massey University Professor of Veterinary Public Health.
The bacteria lives quite happily in the kidneys of many of our domestic species, sheep, cattle, deer, but also in rats and mice, possums, there's different strains and so on. How we get it is we get exposed to the urine of those animals or to water contaminated with the urine of those animals.
And to avoid the disease, farmers are being reminded to wash hands and vaccinate livestock.
The Environmental Protection Authority has approved a new biocontrol to help farmers battle invasive Chilean needlegrass. The South American grass has seeds with sharp tips that can bore into the eyelids and pelts of animals. The EPA has now approved the use of rust fungus from Argentina to attack the grass. Marlborough sheep and beef farmer and member of the Chilean Needlegrass Action Group, Warwick Lissaman, says this is a great step forward.
Biological control coming in now is perfect. The step change will be the density of the infestation will be impacted initially, and then slowly but surely over time, hopefully we will see a removal of the pest plant from some of our infestation areas.
Now to the Chatham Islands, where wild pig numbers are booming and destroying valuable pasture. The issue is being compounded by higher stock numbers on the island because the ship which carries them to the mainland has been out of action since April. A Chatham Island farmer, Alfred Preece, says last year alone he had 200 pigs caught off his farm.
There's always been pig populations there. There's always been keen pig hunters to sort of keep them in check. And certainly in the last 3 years, they've just gone to another level. And, they've just not only ripping up the pasture, but they're actually tearing up, regenerating native bush as well. They can take out hectares a night.
The Ministry for Primary Industries has staff on the Chathams working to control the wild pigs and is helping farmers through the shipping outage. Meanwhile, the ship, which carries stock to the mainland, should arrive at the Chathams at the start of next week.
Olives New Zealand says the current shortage of locally produced olive oil is a seasonal blip and supplies will start flowing within the month. Olives are harvested between March and July, and the organisation's Emma Glover says new oil is being certified now. She says the lack of oil in supermarkets is more obvious this year because imports are down with severe drought impacting Spanish supply. But she says new season production from New Zealand is nearly ready.
There's a bit of a down period before a lot of that oil can be released, waiting for it to settle properly, to be processed, to be certified, to confirm that the quality that they think they have is chemically and sensory correct. So we will probably, in the next few weeks, you'll definitely see a lot more New Zealand oil available. However, we don't have huge volumes compared to previous years.
Emma Glover says olive groves tend to produce in 2 or 3 year cycles, so next year should be a bumper one. Local oil makes up about 10% of olive oil sales in New Zealand.
To some company news now, and Livestock Improvement Corporation's net profit after tax is down nearly 72% on last year due to farmers spending less on genetics. LIC says the lower milk price means farmers are being cautious with their money. Major apple exporter Scales Corporation is selling 2 Hawke's Bay apple orchards to Craigmore Sustainables for $34 million. Under the deal, which still needs approval from the Overseas Investment Office, fruit from both orchards would be supplied to Scales for packing, storage and marketing under a long-term agreement. And there's life yet in those old wool fadges you might have lying around. They're the bags used for holding wool. A recycling scheme's been launched by the agriculture recycling company Ag Recovery, and it'll involve fadges being turned into plastic pellets at a factory in Southland.
And finally, New Zealand potato growers produced the most spuds per hectare in the world in 2022. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organisation stats show it was the only country to exceed 50 tonnes to the hectare. The US produces 49.1 tonnes to the hectare and Denmark just over 44 tonnes to the hectare. Here in New Zealand, we have nearly 8,500 hectares in spuds worth just under $1 billion. That's an awful lot of chips.